you all please give a big Australian welcome to not only one Matt, but two. Champions of conservative leadership, Matt Schlapp and Matt Whitaker, all the way from CPAC USA.
Hello, Australia.
Yeah, exactly. The foreigners are here. How's everyone doing? Are you pumped up? I can't believe how many there are here. I was here in 2019 before the Chinese communists kind of set loose this thing called, what I call Chinese Corona.
The China virus.
The China virus. By the way, Andrew knows this, but you were at CPAC 2019. They blamed, that was CPAC 2020, they blamed us for that. In America, they said it was our fault because I guess we didn't have enough hand washers and other things at our big CPAC conference. So, you know, I'm a little sensitive on this whole Chinese Corona thing. It's hard to be blamed.
I'm very sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they if you remember, that was on the very front edge of the, you know, sort of the worldwide pandemic that caused lockdowns. How about those in Australia? I mean, you went next level on lockdowns in some of your states. And we realized that, you know, while it was serious for certain people, like most of the world could live with it. And now we are.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you guys have come quite a long way. And I thought it would be good first to just tell you.
Actually, they haven't come very far. We've come
a long way. You've come a long way since 2019. It's so impressive, the crowd here. And I know that you're facing in this country what we're facing in our country, a bunch of politicians that are promising to do things that will wreak havoc on your land, and we have that going on in America as well. You know, there's this tradition in politics, you try to be the loyal opposition, but it's very hard these days to be the loyal opposition in America when you see the insanity that's taking place. And I don't know if Matt agrees, but I wanted you each to know that from time to time, the American people will elect a rather radical government like we have with our president. But please know behind that are millions and millions and millions of this term that you all keep using, which I love, common sense. Common sense people that do believe in family, do believe that God creates us male and female, do believe that the schools should educate our kids in the basic things they need to know to live their lives and not indoctrinate them in politics, and know that these institutions in society that they're trying to upend, it's a very dangerous and chaotic thing when they do it.
It is, and you know, worldwide, the thing that is becoming very clear to me as I travel around to the various CPAC events that we're hosting across the globe, including we were in Israel together, we're in Australia together. There's so many of these great opportunities. It is really, you know, the individual versus the collective, and the left, you know, appears to want to collect everything from the people and then distribute it based on their preferred, you know, classifications, including, I guess, you know, in the United States right now, they want to hand money out to student debt holders. It's just a debt forgiveness by votes. I think this is you know, really a phenomenon in the United States that the left is becoming more brash in their desire to just take taxpayer money and buy votes with it. And we have to start calling it that, because that's what it's a vote buying scheme.
Bribery.
It is.
Socialism is bribery, isn't it? They just keep putting more money in people's pockets in hopes that...
And eventually they run out of other people's money.
That's right. I think there was a famous person who said that.
Yeah.
So we do these CPACs all over the world. Andrew Cooper called us up and said, hey, you ought to be coming to Australia. So it was great to come down here in 2019. But you're right, we just came back from CPAC Israel. Mm-hmm. It's very hard because they constantly call us anti-Semitic, and then we went and did CPAC Israel. They had trouble. They didn't know what to say. And then they love to call us Christian white nationalists. That's another phrase they keep saying. And next month we're going to be with Eduardo Verastegui at CPAC Mexico, right in Mexico City. And they're having trouble with the white national part of that one, so they'll take a break. And then they'll come right back with these slurs. And why are we doing this? We're doing this because we realize that this whole kind of global effort that we're all seeing in our states, which is very well funded by these left-wing philanthropists, if you can call them that. Oh, look at this.
The water guy, everybody.
Yeah,
Let's give him a round of applause.
So we're doing this because there are these powers that be around the globe that are trying to drown out your voices. And they're trying to say you don't matter. And they're trying to say that your religion is an old-fashioned thing that's filled with hate. And they're trying to say that your love of country should be supplanted with your love for global causes like global climate change or gender confusion or whatever the latest thing is. And CPAC just started, and Jay Aiba's here from Japan, who's the chairman of CPAC Japan. And we have these people from around the globe who are saying, no, we're not a political party. We're separate from that kind of power structure. We're a nonprofit, but we can help millions of people rise up and say no to all this. And you've been a big part of this.
Yeah.
Matt's on our board. Obviously, you
Well,
serve.
and I first met Andrew in South Korea on a bus going to look at the DMZ, and so it's certainly a global. You know, and let's be honest, what it is it's freedom-loving people across the globe that want to be equipped with what it takes to oppose the left. And the left is very organized worldwide. They have an agenda. It is well-funded, and you know, we are a loosely affiliated, you know, hodgepodge group of people that just really know that there are others like us. There are others across this globe like us that believe in free enterprise, free will, low taxes, less regulation, exploiting all of the resources that God has given us on this great planet to advance the human species forward.
So, very well said. So our parent organization was called the American Conservative Union. American, we love that. That's a great phrase. Conservative, we love that. I know sometimes we get caught on this, whether it's liberal or conservative, but we know what we mean by that. Unions we're not so much for. I don't know really how they came up with that, but that was part of her original name. And so we kept saying, well, what really are we? Are we conservatives? And kind of hit me, it's like, you know, we're Americans. And there was a time when Americans had things that unified them. We had things that we held in common, things that were sacrosanct. And over time, we've allowed these efforts. By the way, I realized here this whole thing about what the gender stuff was in schools, because one of you, I don't know if the gentleman's here this year, but he was 3 years ago, and at one of the breaks, he said, "Can I buy you a pint?" And I said, "Of course." And we sat down, and he started telling me that he had been reading the textbooks of his grandkids. That was the first time I heard about this thing. I mean, I had read about, obviously, people getting gender surgeries and stuff, but I didn't realize that we'd actually think it made sense to teach kids at tender ages that they ought to really seriously consider taking these extreme measures. And so what that brought to mind, and then we went to Brazil, and we had CPAC soon thereafter, and I talked to, in that case, it was the government, the Bolsonaro government. By the way, there's a big election in Brazil that's coming up tomorrow, and I think he's going to win, which I think is great, which will build on the success of Giorgia Meloni in Italy, who is a
CPAC attendee.
Yep, she's a regular CPAC speaker. So Jacinta's not the only wonderful new voice in elected government. This is happening all over the world. But the point, Matt, is that in America, oftentimes we think that because of who we are, that we're the only ones who are facing these attacks from the outside, but we're not. It's happening everywhere.
No, it is happening everywhere. And also, we're not alone, and we're not necessarily in the minority. I mean, I think we've often felt like our fellow citizens didn't share our views. They actually do. I mean, you know, if you boil it down, it is a patriotism and a love of country and place, a desire for every family to have an opportunity to flourish, and it's making sure that the government doesn't get in the way and is helpful in those families flourishing and you know, having a free enterprise economy. One of the things, you know, I think we sometimes take for granted as being you know, Americans or citizens of the United States is understanding what that actually means as a and I don't know if you've heard this, and if you have, then it's a little, I'm leading into a little bit of a joke about Americans, because America, the United States of America, is actually, there's a North America and a South America, and it's named for a famous map maker, Amerigo Vespucci. So if you do the etymology, it actually is it's a United States of Henrietta, because instead of Amerigo, it's America, and so it's a feminized version. So where Henrietta is ultimately the translation.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. You can look it up.
Oh, sorry. So
I read it on the internet, and so Abraham Lincoln, a famous American president from the 1860s, once said, "Don't believe everything you read on the internet."
And I thought it was Al Gore who didn't he?
He invented the internet. Yes.
And global climate change. He did two inventions at the same time. So that's why we're going around the world and meeting. We just get these calls in the office, and they say, I just met with a bunch of businessmen from Guatemala, and they were like, you got to come to Guatemala. By the way, they have a great president, a brave president in Guatemala, and he was going to come be with us at our last CPAC in Dallas, but at the last second couldn't make it. And it's so complimentary when another country calls and says, hey, can we do a CPAC here? I think we're going to do these all over the world. And I think we're going to make a big difference. And you're going to make a big difference.
Well, and we need everyone. This is, it is a little bit of a movement. And so everyone in this room is now part of that movement. And, while you have a lot of work to do here in Australia, I think you also need to join us as we spread this message, because this is not a beacon of light from Washington, D.C. by any means. This is a beacon of freedom that should light the world, and each one of you is a part of that. And so again, one of my messages, not only do I travel around the world, but most of my travel is domestically in the United States. And one of my messages that I want to impart upon you is that each and every one of us needs to do more than we've ever done. I mean, I know a lot of us have been active, and a lot of us have, there's members of parliament, there's senators, there's important people in this room, and there's also just ordinary concerned citizens. But I think now is the time. Now is the time to do more. We cannot rest, we cannot relax, we cannot get comfortable. We have to do more than we've ever done. We are at a moment in history of the world where it's going to tip one way or another. Ronald Reagan said it best. He said that each generation has to fight for their freedom. It is not passed down through the bloodstream. And so I'm asking each one in this room to do more than you've ever done. And I have certainly taken up that mantle of doing more than I have ever done to make sure that we get the right elected officials in these offices, and then ultimately make sure that those individuals represent their people. We had a famous incident recently with Liz Cheney, who, Liz Cheney.
You guys know Liz Cheney?
Yeah, and Liz Cheney ultimately either forgot.
We should just say,
yeah,
can we? This is being live streamed on your website, I think on Sky News, Andrew, and on our website in America. Could the conservatives of Australia give Liz Cheney a greeting? Could you do it real loudly?
So the story transcends 15 time zones, but. The long story short is, if you think about it, Liz Cheney either forgot who she represents, which was the people of Wyoming, or actually represented who she really is, which is a Northern Virginian in Wyoming clothing. Because ultimately we elect our representatives to represent us, to do the people's work, and they should do it for a limited time, and then go home and live under the laws they pass. And we often refer to Washington, D.C., where Matt lives, as the swamp, but it's really become, quite frankly, a whirlpool where folks just get very comfortable and relaxed and enjoy the warm water.
I'm sure they love that vision of me in a whirlpool. But
better than me.
The point is this, so there's a selfish reason why we're doing this as well, is I think Matt and I are both, we're really distraught about our country. We're distraught that so many, there's millions more Americans who think like us than think like the socialists, the Marxists, whatever you want to call them, the collectivists, the statists, the globalists. There's many more of us, but we were so complacent. People said these evil things that were happening, and I was like, oh, come on, it can't be that bad. I mean, I know my friends don't think that, and I don't think my kids think that, and my family doesn't think that. And then we all of a sudden woke up, And a lot of it was the violence of the Black Lives Matter protests, the craziness we saw in the state of Virginia in our schools.
An open southern border.
Open southern border, the crime, the drugs, the chaos that they're unleashing. So part of this is selfish because we know that when the American people watch what's happening here today and over the next 2 days in Sydney, and when they watch what we do and the people we talk to in Mexico City, and when they saw what we talked about in Budapest, and when they see all this collectively, and then they see the elections in Italy and the important election in Brazil, we can actually see the difference it's making in America. So our real desire, because all of us believe in our nation state. You know, you all are proud Australians. The opening of this wonderful conference really brought that home. It was very emotional, I'm sure for you, but for me as a non-Australian to watch the pride that you all have in your own country, and we each want our free societies to grow and prosper. But if America keeps slipping like it is, I think it's bad for all of us. And we're not going to let it happen.
Yeah.
We're not.
I don't think we should applaud the decline of the United States of America. I know that's probably was not their intent of the audience. That you know what you're really saying is that American leadership and that you know a strong United States leads to a strong world and a strong free people. And so you know I want you to know that many of us, Matt and I, and so many other of our fellow citizens, are not going down this path with our fellow citizens that are, you know, kind of really leading us down, you know, the path of ruin. The United States is, you know, someone once famously said, is always going to get to the right conclusion and the right result after trying all of the other wrong ones. I think it was Winston Churchill that, you know, I just bastardized this quote.
You're not going to tell another joke.
Yeah, no,
okay.
no. I mean, it is. We are, you know, our system is built. It's actually beautifully built to self-correct. But you know, let's talk about the 2020 election. You know, there's a lot of reasons that Joe Biden became elected, but one of the main reasons that the Democrats have control right now is because they spent about 4 times as much on the election, both in hard money and soft money, nonprofit, and you know Zuckerbucks and the like. So they spent about $8 billion to our $2 billion, and that's that's because their ideas are so much less palatable to the American people. The left's ideas are bad and ruinous.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
I've met so many great entrepreneurs here in Australia.
No doubt.
We're the movement of the entrepreneur, of the business person, of the person that runs the profitable business that Warren was talking about that allows you to hire the people. By and large, we're the ones that have the big families, right, that believe in family and believe in this importance of having the next generation. What the hell is happening? We make the money. We have the children. They educate our children.
You know, we also are now, and this is, I think, the greatest thing that's ever happened. We are the party of the American worker. You know, sort of, we represent real America. The entrepreneur, the risk taker, the American worker, the people that understand what it takes to build something and create something. And we've divorced ourselves, thank God, from really big corporate America. You know, you and I have talked about this many times, that these big multinational corporations, they don't share our values. You know, their CEOs are scared. You know, they have terrible policies, and you know, ultimately, sort of the blue collar, hardworking Americans are now conservatives. It's been a beautiful renaissance.
But the bad side of that is that all these resources, right, all these profits, all these successful entities, by and large run by people that have our values, somehow the left is so much better funded. And so I think we have to really look at our strategies. Speaking as Americans in America, we have to really look at our strategies. And I think the most important thing that's happened, I think, is the slumber that we've been in. Too many people in America have been in, that it's going to be fine. Oh, we had a bad year, whatever. But you know, things will roughly always go in the right direction. I think for the very first time, you know, in more than 100 years, I think a lot of people in America are spooked to this idea that it's the Reagan aphorism you brought up, we could lose it all. We could lose it all if we don't write the
Yeah.
checks and take the steps today.
And I mentioned that we need to do more than we've ever done, but I think this is the time where we need to actually have political courage as well, to stand for our beliefs and to be able to speak out for our beliefs. Because I think some of those, those corporate CEOs you mentioned that sort of share our values, they get one email about an LGBTQ issue and they fold like a cheap card table. And this is a serious matter where we need to say, no, we know what a woman is. We know what a man is. We believe in a God, and we pray to God, and we understand that our foundational documents, don't need to be amended, to consider your, sort of, I guess, culture. Ultimately, this is a battle for the culture of the United States of America and for the world, quite frankly.
A little wider. And I think that's the thing that's really been brought home to me, which is the battles that we have in America are similar to the battles you have here, but it's about Western civilization. Is it going to continue? If they can continue to say that a parent isn't that most important form of societal structure, right? And that somehow what's happening in too many schools in America, all taxpayer funded, is that they try to get the parents out of the way and they want to get to the kid. And the kid can even do the extreme things like taking these drugs to change their physical appearance, even though you can't change your gender, but you can change, obviously, physical appearances to do tremendous damage. If you look at the studies, these drugs can lower IQ scores. They make permanent damage to your body. So this whole idea of common sense and chaos. And if they can do these things that, just a few years ago, we couldn't have imagined, what's in store for tomorrow. And I guess our message is, that as probably concerned as you are watching our country, help is on the way. There is a big red wave forming. In American parlance, that means the conservatives are going to win big in November. Yeah. So just hold on. Help is on the way.
And there is there's a game that's played in American politics, and it's a game that's played mostly by pollsters and then followed along by the media, and that is about 60 to 90 days out, they show big polls that the right, the Republican candidate is down, and it's down dramatic, down by 10, 11 points, and they do it by manipulating. Obviously polling is more art than science, and so they put their thumb on the scale, they count more of a certain sample that versus others, and they show these horrible polls, and we all get worried about 90 days out. And I think we participated too because it's a great way to raise money, for our federal elections. But at the same time, it never turns out that way. And this is, you look at all these races, especially for the United States Senate. I think the House is in a good place, and it's just a matter of how much of a victory we're going to win, not if we're going to win a victory. But in the Senate, it's much more parochial. It's state by state. There's some key states that Matt and I have friends that are running, but the polls have been awful. But now all of a sudden they're tightening. Imagine that. Imagine, now that the pollster actually has to demonstrate their poll is going to be accurate on election day, they get much tighter. And in fact, some of these candidates that were given, written off as having no chance are suddenly in the lead.
Well, fake news produces fake polls. That's kind of the way that works. It's all done, and this is all part of the strategy in America by all this money that's coming in, is they want to make people with traditional ideas, with classical liberal ideas, they want to make them feel ashamed by making them feel like it's either because of their privilege based on their race or the fact that their ideas are so old-fashioned that they're mean-spirited, and get everyone to feel shame and to shut up. And the motto of my household, and I have a great wife, Mercedes, who's sorry she can't be with you here today, but the motto of our household, which is unfortunate because my kids have taken the motto too, is we're not going to be quiet. It's very loud and boisterous, but I tell my kids all the time, like your kids, I'm sure, and your grandkids, everyone's trying to accommodate in the fact that you want to achieve success in a world with political correctness where you can't really talk honestly. And that's going to ruin everything. So stop doing it. Start speaking up. Speak your mind.
Be courageous.
And don't let them do this.
Yeah. And I have to chuckle, and I laugh it off. I think coming from Wichita, Kansas, or Ankeny, Iowa, is not privilege. I mean, that is hard scrabble. state school graduate. I'm a state school graduate. You're a private school guy, but we can't talk about Notre Dame.
We also played better football.
Yeah,
but
I don't.
okay.
But anyway,
American football.
I'm a state school grad, and the idea that somehow I had any privilege other than just an ability to work hard and take advantage of the opportunities, like most Americans, like most Australians, is laughable. I think too often our culture is shaped by what I describe as coastal elites, people that live either in California or in New York City or on the Eastern Seaboard. And it is such a inaccurate reflection of what the United States of America is actually about. It's really about the heartland of these people in small towns and mid-major cities that have AAA baseball teams and sort of just like raise their family and do the right thing every day.
People like Matt and I. And by the way, Matt was Donald Trump's attorney general, so like he is.
I'm still his favorite.
He's been through the slings and arrows. He did a great job. He worked with my wife in the Trump administration. And it's funny, as we had these battles over race, and let's be very clear, the party that Matt and I are a member of in America, the Republican Party is the party that was established to fight slavery. They ended slavery. We fought a civil war partly to give former slaves full civil rights. It was the Republican Party that passed 3 amendments to our Constitution, ending slavery, giving voting rights, giving full civil rights. It was the Republicans for the decades to come in Congress who voted in larger percentages for all the civil rights bills. How dare the left ever lecture people like you and I on questions of race? And by the way, I'm also tired of people saying, it's great, Schlapp, it's great that you have this point of view, and you're very brave, but you're the wrong guy to say it. My message to all of you who look like me, lily white, with white hair. I know you'd like to have some white hair too, Matt, but
I just cut it short. I think it's much
But
more
my point is, and
efficient.
I think you agree, which is we can't wait until to get the perfect person at the perfect time to use the perfect words. That's part of our problem. Quit pausing, quit delaying, and start speaking.
Yeah, and we need to advance it. And if you look at, especially in these House elections nationwide, we have picked up so many Hispanic, African American, and really our party more and more, like I said, is transitioned to this representing the American worker and the American people, the grassroots individuals that and our representatives are looking more and more like that, and that's a good thing. I mean, I don't. But it doesn't mean that we have, Matt and I have no voice because suddenly, we're not of some, check the box, demographic. I mean, we again, we're all Americans. We all have an ability to be courageous and to advance our ideals and our ideas. And one of the things that we're here in Australia to do is to collaborate, is to talk about those ideas and those ideals and to get even stronger. But, again, I would urge each and every one of you to do more and participate more than probably you ever have or ever thought you would.
As we close out this discussion, Matt, people are reading all these stories about this Biden DOJ that's gone berserk. And as the former top law enforcement officer, you ran DOJ, and I know we've run out of time here, but just to close this down, give the people of Australia hope that this is an aberration, what's going on in America, and we'll get back to some sense of normalcy soon.
No, listen, it's hard. In fact, it's impossible to not believe right now that we have a two-tiered system of justice, where depending on what political party you're in, the Department of Justice is used as a cudgel to beat the other side. And that's
saying Trump people go to prison and
Trump
Hunter Biden gets to walk free.
Exactly, and that's the most obvious example of that two-tiered system, but it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that, and in fact, I think one of the results of this politicization of the Department of Justice is, and being used as a weapon to, prosecute their political enemies, is it's created a fear among those that are I guess less courageous to not speak out, to not say call it what it is, and I think that's what concerns me the most. I mean, we have a whole class of Republican lawyers in Washington, D.C. and nationwide that are afraid to speak out, because they don't want to get canceled. They don't want to lose their jobs at these cushy, silk stocking law firms. That's too bad. I mean, they've obviously gotten very comfortable in the whirlpool, but, we have to be, I guess, like our founding fathers, willing to lose it all. I mean, the famous saying from our founding fathers is we either need to hang together or surely we will hang separately. And I think that's the piece that right now all of us need to hang together because the left is trying to just pick us apart and pick us off one at a time. And it's a very concerning moment in American history. And what the DOJ and the FBI are very powerful. Sort of you do not want a 6 a.m. knock on your door from the FBI, and we've had a lot of our fellow conservatives that have received that.
Yeah, it's true. Well, we're not going to let it happen. Thank you all for letting us be with you today, and we're looking forward to the rest of the conference.
This has been this visit that I've had the opportunity. I've been here about a week and just experienced your lovely country. I can't wait to come back and visit even more of it. I've met so many great friends, and we're just going to have to do this every year so I can come back to Australia.
It's a deal. It's a deal. Thank you.